is there to debate. Proper knowledge, that is all it takes. Nibiru is now on a pace. Systems is about to be replaced. I am from the ancient order of Kemet. I am from the ancient order of Melchizedek. I am potentate. I created cities and I created states. Depending on how much you vibrate, I am saying to this poem, only some can relate. Let us remove the I am from impotent. Let us become potent. Let us put the I am to mortal. Let us become immortal. People, where is your potential? You know, see it get more and more crucial. I am from the ancient order of Kemet. I am from the ancient order of Melchizedek. I am potentate. I created cities and I created states. Depending on how much you vibrate, I am saying to this poem, only some can relate. People, where is your power? It seems as if it has been controlled by a central tower. War unto the city, destruction upon the house. The palace that has been Buckingham has now been damned. Why? Because I am from the ancient order of Kemet. I am from the ancient order of Melchizedek. I am potentate. I created cities and I created states. Depending on how much you vibrate, I am saying to this poem, only some can relate. If I am to be that which I ought to be, yes, which is the I am, yes, the divine, then if I remain as is, I will always be manipulated by those who is aware, but choose to act selfishly rather than selflessly. But tell them, I am from the ancient order of Kemet. I am from the ancient order of Melchizedek. I am potentate. I created cities and I created states. Depending on how much you vibrate, I am saying to this poem, only some can relate. The wild man has been my so-called spiritual guide for a very, very long time. But now, I have grown into certain awareness. Yes, it is the awareness of self. I have now emancipated myself from mental slavery. I have now taken back the power. Yes, the mental power. I am now a free thinker. Why? Because I am from the ancient order of Kemet. I am from the ancient order of Melchizedek. I am potentate. I created cities and I created states. Depending on how much you vibrate, I am saying to this poem, only some can relate. They have boasted how they have taken our mind. They have boasted how they have leave us behind. They have boasted how they have treated us unkind. They have even boasted that our true selves we will never find. But tell them, I am from the ancient order of Kemet. I am from the ancient order of Melchizedek. I am potentate. I created cities and I created states. Depending on how much you vibrate, I am saying to this poem, only some can relate.
Whoa, 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 whoa. In the street we tell you where I go. Whoa, in the street that's how I make my bread. So before the sun rise I got to get up out my bed. Got no time now to even hold a fresh condition of the water. Me just splash my face and left say it's just a challenge every day. Seems only the fittest shall survive in these days. With so many obstacles in our way, one has to wonder why it has to ever be this way. Times it is so hard for many to find some food to eat. Many in the streets on rainy nights sleeping on cold concrete. Thinking deep within their minds that they're beneath some sheets. Trying to trick their minds so that they can fall asleep. Say, they don't care about us. System don't care about us. They don't care about us. System never worry, no not all. Yeah. They don't care about us. can see is in our insecurity. To them I tell you we're just high-end liabilities, consuming more than we produce at any time of day, living above our means and never in a dismay. So man, we are telling you got some nasty selfish ways. Our ego tends to get the best of we in many forms and ways. From our actions back from us, I see how we behave. The oppressed comes the oppressed, as I say. They don't care about.
We see the spirit of Paul Bogle, Nani, and Marcus Garvey being tested. After years of fighting for equality and reparation, black people continue to be chastised under freedom and independence. Much as these heroes and heroines were members of the church congregation, their thinking and actions then was more in being free men and women of society, as the conditions of life on the plantations was heinous, wicked. They thought it fit to fight to be free men and women, creating changes for themselves and families, than continue to live worse than dogs. Hence, a rebellion started to create a justifiable action, taking us into date. For years, Jamaicans have been in a mind frame of independence, which has created a nation of dependables, vulnerable people to the system. These people are always a puppet to the system, as lack of employment and skills, along with little or no educational background, contributes to them being pawns to the government. Lack of knowledge creates slaves. The educational system under the government raped citizens of their capabilities and opportunities to attain fair and proper knowledge that will help them to balance both life and profession. With the need to build more learning institutions along with teaching more practical skills, there is very little tools to work with within the educational system. As we see underpaid teachers, crowded classrooms, and in a world of technology today, some areas are still waiting on connection or internet service to be installed. As much as things are being done to elevate the educational system in some way, it is carried out from a political point, as every other action of the system towards its citizens when carrying out their duties. The system continues to keep its people at a disadvantage, as they refuse on teaching self-reliance or promote such. Not teaching in schools their past history or creating skills of survival that's embedded within their cultural concept and way of life. However, they take precious time in teaching us about our oppressors, piracy, the greatness they did, as we continue to learn to be slaves to the system, as the concept of education is to create slaves. Choose your victims and opponent carefully. The system has its way of getting things done, whether through legal channels or which way they so choose. Representation for the nation's people are the same politicians who are voted for and who oppresses the people, and are the same one when on the opposite side of the house speaks for the people, along with the private sector who controls the government. No true representation, thus the country's leaders has that leverage to do as they so please. People are always calling on authorities for help, when it's the same people in authority who creates the horror in the beginning and make life challenging for those who cry, thinking their cries will ever be heard. When a country is run without the opinion or decision of others within parliament or representatives of its citizens, thus decision is only made by one person, this is known to be an act of totalitarianism. Jamaicans are at a peril, as business owners, the private sector, and the system is also a part of the structuralized system that compromises their way of life. As this creates conflict of interest towards society's employees, we see the income of many Jamaicans is at a sore low, with very little benefits or rights within the working environment. With the average Jamaican making a minimum of roughly $100 US for the week or less, many cannot afford a proper neighborhood to reside, as in many cases the rent is above their means. Yet these are the same people that keep production going. However, many struggle to make ends meet daily, yet still creates a high dependency on the system for prosperity and happiness that will never come. Your master depending on you does not mean he loves you. He'll more fear you and resent you. Jamaicans over the years have stayed committed to their political party. However, time has created a change in people, party, and family. Many are committed to a point where things are taken very personal and can create altercation within communities, causing bloodshed for weeks and months. As some people's ego and insecurity cannot take the slightest of offense. However, today we see where partism has faded through the betrayal of dead prime ministers and national heroes over loyalty. The commitment of people only makes them more vulnerable to the system. By this meaning, they are like slaves, with the abuse they face while working with their employers daily. A condition is created through commitment, thus impoverishment over the years for many families. As a result, one would find him or herself in compromising position with nothing to survive on, as there is no employment created but dependency. Turning to authorities make one obligated to one who gives favor. Failing through the educational system and not taking to a trade or try to make it within the system, even having the ability to self-reliance, he or she is automatically vulnerable and easily become obligated to one towards a means to survive. Many youths over the years has become vulnerable or otherwise being caught up into gangs or social conflict where he or she becomes an interest to the law. It's in the money over moral syndrome, the matter of many Jamaicans and around the world today. With little or no changes, government officials and their colleagues are being pressured by private agencies in giving up garrisons, havens for gunmen, and the control they had, thus giving the forces way of apprehending them without any political interference. However, this is allowing the system to create a military-controlled country, with which we see checkpoints being created daily in and around the country in the name of apprehending criminals. Society is somewhat skeptical about the police force and some of its members, even members of the military, creating doubt within minds of the people today. Keep people in suspense, be unpredictable. The minds of many is always played with. It seems the system has this all arranged. Take society to whatever level we want. Information in this country is controlled by a few, who takes the time in manipulating the minds of many, keeping the nation in a trance, spaced out, illusional lifestyle. The main media such as newspaper and a few other prominent radio stations are owned by a few organizations who choose what to print in media and also what to play on air. Controlling on a large scale what to be published daily, as there is no independent newspaper anymore in the city. A few stations that work independently and so choose to expose truth to myths and call on the system to refrain from leading its people in a fake, non-productive, negative path, as many a time faces pressure from the Commission of Communications on broadcasting violations towards information. Thus, one can see there is not much free speech in media these days. The system can know when to initiate a fiery plan. Regardless of months and years of struggle for many, the mind seems to forget then and think of now, with a high level of respect for those who had placed them in the oppressive mode of life for years and months. Yet, an increasing level of respect is shown. Thus their supporters who are short visionaries, not knowing what a change is like, along with a high level of value through his or her scarcity. Thus, their presence within time creates an important moment towards their need as a people. With development taking place over the country, mostly in the residential communities within the corporate area, apartments are erected on single-unit properties, and to the dying tune of its cost, the average person living and is in need of a dwelling cannot afford a single apartment on his or her monthly wages for himself, much less his family. However, with the high level in crime and corruption, anyone and everything is affordable in Jamaica. However, all these projects taking place, the upgrading of basic necessities is still yet to come. With all these projects taking place, the upgrading of basic necessities still come to communities as if it's a favor and not paid for. As we see no improvement on the water supply system coming in communities or any talk towards improving supply or storage facilities for coming years. The horse is taken from the wild and is broken. Dependability. With a crisis being created by those in authority, we see inflation and poverty level rise as the system sits and waits, waiting for poverty to reach its high and dependability sets in. Then we will see only the dying poor and filthy rich, where the order of life is set by those in authority. How does this differ from the Willie Lynch syndrome? To tame a slave is like taking a horse from the wild and over a period in time make it depend on its master. With few business places open to the public, they are allowed to work and close within a specific time and be allowed out the next day. Same procedure. No straying too far or grazing socially with other breeds. No night functions allowed. As it seems to many, with restrictions only at night being imposed, it seems the virus rapidly spreads only at night and at personal gatherings. With all that is taking place around us concerning our way of life and freeness to live, what have we ever stand up for as a people? Instead of trying to be that individual whose ego has gotten to the best of him or her, trying to outdo the masses with their finances or way of living. We always find it a joy to run to other country to live and boast, running from our fears and fight, finding comfort in what others had fought and died for to create a better way for living. However, we never see the need or find it necessary to secure our own country and fight for the betterment of it. Today we as a people need to stand and save our soul and our country, as no one else is coming to save
Each of
us.
it teach, got the preach, all each, na beg and have Teach you to teach, cut the long speech, and you them out of street when we well want to reach. Teach you to teach, cut the preach, all leech, me a beg and a message. All pastor guy him come on the pulpit. In him 3-piece suit, him necktie and jacket. Holy waters where the guy him have a sip, side a church sister sip, take a one prep. Open him King James and start for reading. Jesus saved, never want about the ship. The one who take the ship across the Atlantic with a bag of black man human cargo on it. To go work on plantation, rich the men them pocket. Men them get rich and make a whole heap of profit. The amount of money what they make, they don't know what to do. Champagne them a sip, cocaine them a sniff. Them build submarine, give them silence. Them big spaceship. But destroy the deep and the far out planet. When the money get weak, them pick up back the way. When the African back, them come back, come sit with them IMF plan, them World Bank trip. To make more money for put in them pocket. Put in them pocket on the top secret. And deceive and trick the public. They want a cake. Teach you for teach, cut the preach. And they them out the street when we well want to reach. Teach you for teach, cut the preach, all leech. Now big and a business. Marcus Garvey did tell we already. One Jah, one aim, one destiny. The one bag of church is not necessary. The church and state them use that divide. We divide we up in a crew bus, we in a posse. That make me not like you and you not like me when we walk up out the road. Pure agony. We are forced and we are fight over 2 pence and party. We left the real fight for fight. We not worry about it. But if we unite tonight under one unity, one Jah as we hear, one destiny, we can reach to the top just like anybody. When we reach to the top, we can bust liberty. When we bust liberty, we stand with authority. With authority, we defeat the enemy. Enemy down, them can't talk to you. We rule and run the country. Selassie, Rastafari.
Selassie, bless my Lord. What are your name?
Pacha Gold, you know.
Pacha Gold.
4 people out and soul from one day out.
Selassie.
He had from up in a Brownstone region.
And all them bridges, them man, one of them man, they going a deep water, them man, they go before and lead Marcus Garvey, and then we as a follower. But them man, they know everything, you know, brother. When I hear man pan radio, this man talk, you know. When I hear man talk, I say, how them man talk so, and then steer back so. Like they don't care. Yeah? And then we lead the way. And then we know follow them. But then sit on one side and go on, oh, that's why the white man can't take over when we take over. But we don't sit down like we don't care and say nothing not going to work, and when nothing not going to work, and when we see them coming and talk going on, we see when we support them.
Pamela Williams, otherwise known as Sister Nanny, and I am the Secretary of the Rastafari Choral Gardens Benevolent Society. The society's main aim is to advocate for compensation to be paid. We have advocated for an apology, and we got somewhat of an apology in 2017, and we are still in the process of advocating for compensation to be paid to the survivors of the Choral Gardens atrocities, as well as the Rastafari community that was completely disrupted by the atrocities in those times. When, in 1963, after the Choral Gardens incident, the government of the day, led by Bustamante, ordered that the security forces should bring in all Rastafari, dead or alive, and as he declared that if the lockups couldn't hold them, then the Bogue Hill would hold him, and Bogue Hill at that time was the only cemetery in Montego Bay. So it was an attempted genocide of the community. But however, we are still here, and we have survivors who are still awaiting the government to actually pay compensation to them, and for the community to receive reparations in respect of the unjust treatment that was meted out. So we are a welfare organization. We assist the survivors in different ways. We assist them with medical expenses. We try to organize at least 4 health fairs each year for their benefit, and we also assist in even house repairs with our meager resources. You know, we do the best we can. Every year we have a commemorative event on Bad Friday, because that was a date. Day in April of 1963 when the government ordered that the Rastafari should be brought in. So and that was Good Friday, the Christian calendar. But the Rastafari recognize it as a bad Friday for us as a community. So we call it a Bad Friday commemorative event that we put on every Bad Friday. And that is one of our main ways of fundraising to assist the elders as we do. So that is what we have been doing, and we are still advocating because the government is dragging its feet. They have made promises and they continue to make promises, but they are not delivering yet on the promises. So we have to remain focused and vigilant and determined to hold them accountable.
So what kind of support do you get in order to keep the organization going?
Well, the members, we have members, the members contribute dues, so small dues really, of $100 per week. The dues are really, they really go towards supporting the administration of the society, because we have to pay our rent and overheads like utilities, so that assists in that way. So it's just, that's really how we function, and through fundraising and donations.
Okay, and tell me some of the weaknesses right now you see where you think we can improve on right now in order to advance on a radical state, because we're doing things, but it's like the system really not really taking us serious. So what form of radicalism do you think we as Rastafarian need to take up in order to keep the movement going?
To, as what His Majesty ordered us to do so very long ago, at the time when it was in 1961 mission to Africa, His Majesty told the brethren that we need to organize and centralize. Now, that is really, we need to fall to act together, because it is that is how the Benevolent Society, the Rastafari Benevolent Society, that is how we have managed to get the government to even apologize and to recognize that they should compensate the survivors, just through organization and regular meetings and keeping up a structure, transparency and accountability. Those are the critical, tenets on which we need to have an organization, so that there's nothing, anyone can come in and look at our records. Our organization is open to Rastafari adherents or persons of Pan-African orientation. So we are open to persons to come in and assist and support. So I think that is the main way in which we can really make an impact on society. And even when we are in recent times, I have come to the conclusion that we need to register to vote, not for any one particular party, but to have a voting bloc in the Rastafari community, so that we can influence the decisions that are taking place and influence them to recognize, because most of them, they disregard us because they know that most Rastafari don't participate in the electoral process. But now, if we all register and keep poised to support our causes and to vote in respect of those persons who will support them, even send our own representatives to Parliament to represent our interests. I think that is the way in which we will be taken more seriously. We need to take ourselves
and take our stands within the society.
Yes.
And in Parliament.
Yes.
Okay, I love that. All right, all right, now it's independence, right? As the time being celebrated. I always ask this question, I've been asking this question, that what is it really that we are doing in order to maintain that stigma that Paul Bogle and Nanny left for us, instead of just celebrating and carrying out the action, as per se, independence, this and that, gala, and all of that. So what is it really, you see, where we are doing or we need to do as a people, to create that stance, instead of living off legacy, which we all are doing. We're living off legacy.
Yes.
And nobody really creating creating new points or being that person to lead the struggle. Everybody is saying Paul Bogle did it, Garvey did it, but who is doing it now?
Exactly. Quite honestly, I have put in so much effort in the Rastafari Choral Garden Benevolent Society because I see it as a vehicle for our organization, for our centralization, for our impact that we want to make as a Rastafari community. And for even those persons who wish to repatriate to Africa, that is how we can really be taken seriously in that regard, if we so desire. Some persons now say that our blood has been shed here in Jamaica, and we should not leave it behind, and we should claim it as our own. But the only way, as I say, that we can really truly claim it as our own is standing up and be counted. Standing up as a community en bloc together, saying, okay, these are the issues that are important to the Rastafari community. We want to make sure that those issues are addressed, you know. For example, look at what is happening in the cockpit country. That is Maroon land, eh?
Right, yeah.
And the government is now allowing bauxite mining in that area. Now that is so disastrous. That is, when you look down the line for the future of this country, I don't know what is going to happen, because the cockpit country represents the reservoir
of the country, of the island.
We have been known as the land of wood and
water.
And that is where the water is reserved naturally.
So right away the water is about to be stolen.
The water is, and the atmosphere there, yeah. Children are dying, not dying, but suffering from asthma and other, well, dying, yes indeed, in slow death, you know.
Yeah. Because of the poisonous from the
fumes from the bauxite mining. And it is just a short-sighted approach to so-called development. So what we really need is, as I say, let our voices be heard. Many people have been shouting, and last week there was a demonstration in the area against the bauxite mining. But we need, as a people, as a country, to really stand up. A lot of us in this country, we are just, you know, taken up with our own individual issues,
true.
And not recognizing that the wider issues out there impact our individual issues.
True.
You know, when we are at home and we can't get water in the pipes, we are angry for that short time. But when we don't recognize the things that are done to impact,
to create that problem, right?
You know?
True.
The other aspect of things is tourism again. You know, we sell out all the beaches, so very soon the nation will be penned in, because when they sell off the sea and the hotels build their area and have their security guards where you cannot come in the sea. All the natural benefits of the water, of the salt water, we'll be losing as a nation. And I remember in my time in school when they used to say that nobody owns the sea, but that is no longer the case. The hotels come from the Spanish hotels, the so-called, all from various different countries. Now they come and control our sea.
Everybody come and own the beaches.
Yes, and you can't get to the sea by virtue of the fact that they control the beaches. So it is. These are the issues that we have long-term
that we need to focus on,
that we need to address. You know, the short-term issues of what is in our pocket today,
true.
Or what will be in the pocket tomorrow. Those are short-term, and we have to look at the longer-term issues. You know, otherwise, our children will not have a future.
Highly blessed. Again, tell ones and ones who you are and what you represent and your position.
Yes, I am Pamela Williams, otherwise known as Sister Nanny, Secretary of the Rastafari Choral Garden Benevolent Society. Now, Benevolent Society is a democratic organization where the general members elect a committee of management on an annual basis. All right, every year we have an annual general meeting, and the general members elect the committee of management to represent and serve as officers for the society. And the committee of management is made of 11 persons. So you have a chair, a vice chair, a secretary and assistant secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer, welfare officer, assistant welfare, public relations officer and assistant, and a volunteer coordinator. Now, welfare is an important aspect of our work. So we say that we are in advocacy, advocating for the rights of the Rastafari community to be respected, and and not trampled upon, as in the case of Changa Changa recently, who was arrested by the police just because of the clothes that he's wearing. And you know, we are saying that the Rastafari community, it is time for the police to stop targeting Rastafari and arresting them and trampling on their human rights, especially at a time when you have so much crime in the country, where we have to be, you know, have a continuous rolling out of states of emergency. Serious murders and going on, and yet the police have time to interfere with an innocent man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So really, we're misdirecting our efforts, you know?
Losing focus on how we need to focus.
Exactly. Instead of holding up the peaceful citizen and saying, look, this is a man who has taken initiative to make his own clothes, right? Instead of importing all of the foreign stuff and creating a pressure on the foreign exchange. This is an indigenous industry that he is really
trying to
pioneering.
Right,
and instead of him getting encouragement, the police said to him that when he comes to court, make sure that he don't wear those clothes before the judge. Now this is absolute rubbish.
Violation of rights right away.
Violation of the constitutional and human rights. Trampling on them completely, you know. And targeting of the Rastafari continues, you know. This kind of prejudice against our community still continues. It is institutionalized. So even though you have a lot of people wearing the hairstyle, most of them do not know really the tradition of what we have come through for them to be wearing the hairstyle now freely.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And we need to, that is part of why I really am very passionate about working on behalf of the Rastafari Forgat Benevolent Society, because I see it as a fundamental, addressing fundamental issues within the Rastafari community.
If one wants to make contribution to the Coral Gardens Association, how would they go about it?
Okay, well, you can contact us by email. We also have a Facebook page, Coral Gardens.
Which is the Facebook page? Tell them the Facebook page, tell them how they can the email address.
Yes, the email address is rcgbsatrocity@yahoo.com. And our telephone number, the telephone number for the Benevolent Society is 876-518-3842.
Again?
876-518-3842. Our office is located at Shops 367 People's Arcade in Montreal.
I will first give a thanks to Mr. Love. Yeah, man, it's my honor.
My brothers and sisters, dying cause of the games they choose to play. Yet no one lend a helping hand to stop these atrocities. Those who have can afford to avoid it each and every day. And politicians have no stop hiding it from poor people every day. Jah, hear my prayer as I trod along my way. Jah, hear my prayer as I go along each day. Say, Jah, I hear my people them screaming out for help. Yet look how many in this world got incredible wealth, and many living on broken hopes and dreams, drinking from infested streams. And everybody knows